Hi folks, Mr. Long here. I'm going to do a screencast on solving quadratic inequalities graphically. So there's a handout here that I'll put on Google Classroom, and there's only 3 practice questions. Please do them today. Tomorrow morning, period 1, you're ready to learn. So first thing, let's just go through some of these questions. So we see a parabola in front of us, and we want to highlight number 1, highlight the y values on the graph that are negative. So that's pretty straightforward. If a y value is negative, it has to be below the x-axis, right? So that's number 1 done. We've highlighted the y values that are negative. Now we need to highlight that part of the x-axis where the y values are negative. So here I am on the x-axis, and so I'm going to highlight between -4 and 3. Okay, highlight between -4 and 3. So those are the x values. So it's almost like matching them up. So you figure out where the y values are negative first, and then you find the corresponding x values. Okay, let's take a look at these questions over here. So we've learned that the solution set for x values is called the domain. Okay, it's just a new phrase that we're learning about gradually. So the domain are the set of x values that we're allowed to have in any graph or in a solution to an equation, etc. So if we look at this, then the domain is the set of x values we're allowed to have. If you look at that graph, it looks like you can have any x value as long as it's between -4 and 3. Because you can't have any x values to the right of 3 because then the y values turn positive. And notice, if it says negative, does that mean you can have 0? Is 0 included in a description of negative numbers? So in this case, it wouldn't be included. So if I show this with a number line, like we've learned, I would have open circles at -4 and 3. Okay, so what are those? What are the possible numbers? The possible numbers are from -4 to +3. Okay, and we can't include -4 and 3, and that's why the brackets are round. So number 4, the equation that you have just solved is y greater than 0. So in this case, and I spelled equation wrong. In this case, what is the equation for that graph? And you may remember that from last year. So you have x equals -4 for that x-intercept. And then if I added 4 to both sides, it would be x plus 4 equals 0. If I did the same thing over here where x is 3, I'd have x is equal to 3 or x minus 3 equals 0. Now this is extra interesting today because I'm doing this screencast while students are in the room. So I really look crazy to a group of students when I'm talking to myself. But at least you won't hear any dogs barking in the background. Okay, so our 2 factors then are x plus 4 and x minus 3. So then my equation is x plus 4 and x minus 3, which makes perfect sense, right? Because then you would get x equals -4 and x equals 3. Okay, so that is actually the equation, or in this case, inequation that we've solved. Okay, let's try this again with b. We'll go through this one a little bit quicker. So highlight the y values in the graph below that are 0 or negative. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight 0 or negative. Okay, so I'm highlighting 0 or negative. Negative means below the x-axis, but it includes 0. Now I need to highlight that part of the x-axis where the y values are 0 or negative. So is that right? No, I don't think so because the y values are positive there. So that means the x values that correspond to the y values that are 0 or negative go in either direction. Okay, so there's the actual number line even right there, right? So the number lines go to the left and to the right, to the left of -1 and to the right of 2. Okay, so let's go back over to this. So in this case, the domain would be to the left of -1. So that goes all the way, starts on the left at -infinity and goes all the way to -1. And it includes -1. So I can't touch negative infinity, so that's a round bracket, but I can touch -1, so that's a square bracket. So from negative infinity to -1. And let me make that -1 look better. Okay, and then we use this, it means and. It's a U for union, like a union of two things. Like a union is a marriage is considered a union of two people. That U is for a union of two parts to a solution. So the right part of the solution is anything to the right of 2 and including 2. So it includes 2 and it goes all the way to positive infinity. And that's a round bracket there. And finally, let's come up with the equation of this graph. I know that this is x equals -1, therefore x plus 1 equals 0. So that's our one factor. Then on the other side, I know that x equals 2, so x minus 2 has to equal 0. And then our two factors are x plus 1 and x minus 2. So x plus 1, x minus 2 is, oh, this one should have said greater than or, oh, that's totally wrong. That should say less than or equal to 0. Okay, I'll make that a correction before I send it out to you on the paper version. Okay, so that's the actual inequation we solved. So now we've got a couple questions to practice just with the equations. So the first thing I need to do is to graph x plus 6, x minus 10 is less than 0. So real simple, one x-intercept is -6, the other x-intercept is positive 10. That's a smiling parabola because there's no negative there. And now I want to make sure that I am highlighting the areas that are below 0. Okay, so I've highlighted the areas below 0. So y values are less than 0. Okay, because remember, x plus 6 times x minus 10 is actually the set of y values that make that parabola at specific x values. Okay, so what does x equal then? It goes to the left, from the left at -6 all the way on the right to 10. Since it's a less than symbol, it can't include either of those. It has to be below. So from -6 to 10. And then D is this one here. So let's draw the sketch. X minus 1 times x minus 7. So one x-intercept is 1, the other x-intercept is 7. And this again is a smiling parabola. Okay, and I want to find those values that are greater than or equal to 0. So equal to 0 means I include both of those x-intercepts, and I'm going to shade in the parts that are above 0. So that symbol right there, greater than or equal to, means above, or to the right of if you're talking about x, but this right here is a y value, so it's above. Okay, so I've highlighted those parts, and sometimes with these I find the number lines are helpful because I know it includes 1 and it goes to the left. It includes x equals 7 and it goes to the right. So the solution set, which we call the domain, so for the first one, this one here I'm circling, the solution set for that one would be, it goes on the left side of that number line right there is -infinity. On the right side of it is 1. But this one is greater than or equal to, so it's a square bracket. And then I put union. And then let's just draw this one in red here. So now what's the number, what's the interval notation for starting at 7 going to the right? Well, it goes from 7 all the way to positive infinity. And square bracket at 7 because it includes 7. Round bracket at infinity because it can't include infinity. Okay, so, and then there are 3 questions for you to do today at home. And you can see those in the bottom, but I'll post this on Google Classroom. And again, pause, rewind the video, make sure you understand these. These are they're very straightforward. Tomorrow we will be adding some factoring into this, so it'll just be a little bit more complicated. So if you know how to do these quick sketches and solve these inequalities, it will make your life much easier for tomorrow. Okay, have a good day.